Shipping for the Grim Reminders Gamefound pledge is finally taking place, and people all around the world are getting their hands on the newest, exciting KeyForge set. There have been pledge openings left and right, decks being shared on Discords and social media, and games being played. The hype is at an all-time high during this period of discovery for the set, and today, I want to share with you 20 must-know tips and combos that may come in handy as you explore your fresh Grim Reminders decks. Without further ado, let's get into it. One of my favorite combos so far has been Down to Size plus Earthshaker. Down to Size reads play, choose an enemy creature. Until the end of the turn, that creature is considered to have 1 power and 0 armor. This means you can choose any creature with more than 3 power, such as a dangerous Ether Spider or Blunderbore, lower it to 1 power, then kill it with Earthshaker. Down to Size works awesome with any damage dealing card really. Other great options are Berserker Slam, Cannon, and Lash Out. Or if an enemy creature is already damaged, Down to Size will straight up kill it since it'll have more damage than its power. It's a very versatile card, I've been enjoying it immensely. In Ecodon, we have Outnegotiate and Incarnation Pod. Outnegotiate, reprinted from Winds of Exchange, allows you to choose a card in the opponent's discard pile, steal Ember for each bonus Ember on that card, then put it on the bottom of their deck. Incarnation Pod is a new Ecodon artifact that has a scrap ability reading, purge the bottom card of each player's deck. Steal from a card with Outnegotiate, then purge it with Incarnation Pod. That way, you negate the risk of your opponent getting that card back, especially if it was a powerful card or one with lots of extra Ember enhanced onto it. Or perhaps if you don't have Incarnation Pod, Dirge of the Deep over at Unfathomable can put it right back into their discard pile. Speaking of cards that interact with the bottom of the deck, Dark Discovery is a popular key cheat from Dark Tidings that has you name the bottom 2 cards of your opponent's deck, and if you name the right 2 cards, you forge for free. It always comes with 2 cards, Drawn Down and Dive Deep, that help enable this. Grim Reminders has numerous cards that can support it wonderfully and make it happen more consistently. Incarnation Pod, which we just mentioned, has an action ability that puts a card from a discard pile to the bottom of its owner's deck, as does Outnegotiate. Beam of Forgetting, in-house, reads play, reveal a random card from your opponent's hand. Put that card on the bottom of their deck. Kariki Germinator is just like Incarnation Pod, but as a play reap ability. Nightmare Inducer reads action, choose a card in your opponent's discard pile, exhaust each enemy creature that shares a house with that card, put that card on the bottom of your opponent's deck. And over in Geistoid, Plowsword is an uncommon artifact reading action. Put a creature in a discard pile on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, deal 3 damage to a creature. If you've got any of these cards in your deck with Dark Discovery, you should hopefully have a higher chance of pulling it off, as long as the opponent doesn't find ways to counter it, such as Till the Earth or Old Patty. Keeping it unfathomable, part of the Fish House's identity is unique in that it enjoys punishing your opponent for being haunted. In a set where being haunted is often beneficial, this is a pretty interesting form of disruption, seen in cards like Tanjimanji and Nemo Leech. They also have cards that can make your opponent haunted quicker, or keep them haunted if your opponent keeps shuffling cards back into their draw pile or something. Immersioneer can do this with its Reap ability, or Arcane Transmitter with its action ability. Thalassophobia is reprinted as well, instantly putting them into haunted status. Guiltspine Mesmerist has a scrap ability useful in this regard too. As added utility, if your opponent is trying to pull these tricks on you, Arcane Transmitter shuffles your discard pile into your deck when you scrap it, making those Gate Watchers and Thought Swims less effective. It's a very interesting sub-theme of Unfathomable in this set, tying in great with the haunted mechanic. Thought Swim, which I just mentioned, is a pretty insane upgrade that offers some remarkable creature protection, making it so the creature equipped with it can't be damaged if your opponent is haunted. It's still vulnerable to direct removal or bounce, but if your opponent's deck is lacking in that regard, it can be extremely potent. There are all sorts of great targets for Thought Swim in Unfathomable, such as Cop, the aforementioned Tanjimanji, Trawler, or even Bryozorch. Outside of Unfathomable, you could even throw it on one of the witch creatures from Untamed, like Haunting Witch or the Witch Queen, or maybe Gemcoat Vendor in Ecodon, perhaps Blunderbore and Brobnar. Obviously it's not much of a threat when your opponent isn't haunted, but it should still be a pretty high priority. Back over in Ecodon, Historian Lee Darkin is a creature who reads, after Reap, each player returns the top card of their discard pile to their hand. The first application I thought of for this was returning Generous Offer straight back to hand right after having played it, for a big steal turn. Or you could put something like Security Detail or pull up Stakes back to hand, or if the timing works out perfectly, a key cheat. Of course, be cognizant of what you're putting back in your opponent's hand, since you won't want to give them back a power card they may have just played. Also in Ecodon is another steal combo, Belligerent Guard and Permanent Record. Of course, Permanent Record can be used on any ready creature to exhaust them and steal 2, but maybe you don't have any ready creatures on the board. That's where Belligerent Guard comes into play. Since he enters play ready, you can exhaust him immediately with Permanent Record for the steal and not have to worry about the rest of your board. Brash Grabber is a creature in Mars who enters play enraged if you're not haunted, and has an Omni ability reading, move 1 Ember from an enemy creature to your pool. It's a great way to combat capture and even exalting, and can be executed in any house. I found pairing this with Don't Believe Your Eyes to be quite helpful. If you're haunted, a creature captures 2 from its own side, otherwise a creature just captures 1. So while haunted, throw down a couple Brash Grabbers and play Don't Believe Your Eyes to have an enemy creature capture 2 from its own side, then next turn, you can use those Brash Grabbers no matter what house you've called to put that Ember into your pool. Obviously, you can mix and match this with whatever other cards you'd like, but this combo I've enjoyed in a couple of my decks. Brobnar has an artifact called Soul Bomb, which reads, Omni, if you're haunted, deal 4 damage to each creature, destroy Soul Bomb. That could be upwards of 20 to 30 damage all at once, so pair that with Concussive Transfer, and you can then move that damage wherever you'd like. It reads, play, deal 3 damage to a creature, redistribute all damage on creatures among all creatures. So you can take whatever remaining damage is on the surviving creatures after triggering Soul Bomb and redistribute it wherever you'd like. Maybe deal 8 of it to a particularly large creature, and another 2 to finish off a friendly creature with a destroyed effect. Over in Untamed, Sabira the Medium is a new witch creature who gains you 3 Ember, a whole half a key, when you shuffle your discard pile into your deck. Typically this is done when you've reached the end of your deck and you need to refill your hand, forcing you to shuffle your discard pile and use it as your deck. But Grim Reminders gives you other opportunities to do this outside of that. If you successfully forge with Spooky Charge, you reshuffle, which Sabira rewards you for. Till the Earth's entire effect is that of reshuffling. Sure, these actions make you unhaunted, but Sabira can make it worth your while, and sometimes becoming unhaunted is even a good thing, or won't have much impact anyway. Scrapping Arcane Transmitter has the same effect. Sabira is a rather niche card, but when it goes off, it rewards you handsomely. Untamed has another really unique card called Forgotten Guardian. It reads, play, purge a card from a discard pile. Scrap, shuffle a purged card into its owner's deck. Obviously that playability is decent, but being able to return an important or powerful purged card from your discard pile, such as an Ecto Charge you just forged with, back to your deck, can be remarkably potent. Or if you're up against an Infernus heavy deck and they're purging a lot of your key tools like Key Abduction or Fiery Jark, you can retrieve those as well. Forgotten Guardian is one of the very few cards in the game that bring things back from the purge zone, so it can be a valuable tool. Ecto Charge is a card I haven't mentioned yet, but I believe it will be a meta-defining card for the set. It reads, play, forge a key at plus 20 current cost, reduced by 1 for each card in your discard pile. If you do, purge Ecto Charge. It is a one-time use kind of key cheat, but when you're deep into your deck and you have lots of cards in your discard pile, it'll be incredibly easy to pull off. The common Geistoid action Boo is an exceptional setup card for it, allowing you to discard the top 10 cards of any player's deck. It gets you 10 cards and an Ember closer to forging with Ecto Charge, so it's definitely worth celebrating when you see these two cards together. This next combo is one I think I've mentioned before, that of Trawler and Triangulator Newsome. Trawler captures all your opponent's Ember when you're haunted, and Newsome moves each Ember from his neighbors to your pool when he reaps, again when you're haunted. Get these two next to each other, and the potential is there for you to effectively steal all your opponent's Ember, though it is a multi-turn combo. Staff Sergeant Rhea can help you get there a little quicker, with a scrap ability that readies and uses a friendly creature, so you can use Newsome right after playing him. Your opponent has time to counter it, but if this combo goes off, it's devastating. Kinda reminds me of Gluttony and Envy from Mass Mutation. In Geistoid, Junkyard Cemetery is an interesting artifact that reads, while there is a combined total of 10 or more cards between your purged cards and discard pile, you are haunted. Action, purge a card in your discard pile. It can help you remain in a haunted state more consistently, so if you have lots of other cards that purge friendly cards, you could be haunted at almost all times, even when you reshuffle your deck. Cards like Cursed Tomb and the Grim Reaper can both purge your own stuff, as can Singing Scythe, Estate Sale, Crop Circles, and Mender. Being haunted enables things like Elvia Stray entering play ready or allowing Quartermaster Body to capture, so if Junkyard Cemetery can maintain that state for you more often, that's usually ideal. But as I mentioned before, sometimes being haunted is not a good thing, such as when you're facing down specific unfathomable cards. There's one card in particular you probably won't want to play when you're up against such a suite of cards, and that is Dark Memento, the ultimate card to keep you haunted at all times. It reads, at the start of your turn, if you are not haunted, discard cards from the top of your deck until you are haunted. Then it has a scrap ability that instantly makes either player haunted if they're not already. Dark Memento should be an instant discard if you're facing down a Dark Heart of the Forest deck. Dark Heart of the Forest makes each haunted player skip their Forge a Key step, so if you don't have any key cheats and Dark Memento is keeping you haunted 24/7, you'd better hope you have some artifact control or you're not ever forging. Dark Memento is a very matchup dependent card, so be sure to take a long, close look at the opponent's Archon card before playing it. Over in Star Alliance, Elliot is a very interesting creature reading Play, Fight, Reap. You may play an upgrade from your discard pile on Elliot. Scrap, shuffle all upgrades from play into their owner's decks. That scrap ability is what has me most interested. Being able to get rid of those pesky encounter suits or Imperial Scutums or Proton Siphons or even the Z upgrades can come in major clutch. There aren't many upgrade control cards out there, so Elliot dealing with all upgrades in play simultaneously is a very unique ability, even hitting actions such as Came Back Wrong and Spontaneous Awakening that enter play as upgrades. They're not dealt with permanently, but hopefully it'll open up a window for you to deal with those creatures they would typically be attached to. Ember Storm plus Rot Feast is a burst combo that people notice pretty quickly. Ember Storm lets you deal lots of damage all at once, while Rot Feast rewards you for dealing damage during your turn. Just like Zap or Sack of Coins, Ember Storm can deal multiple instances of damage to different creatures simultaneously. So if you hit 4 separate creatures with 1 Ember Storm, Rot Feast nets you 4 Ember. Things get even crazier with multiple copies of either card. Dr. Xyloxylfrex, or Dr. Xylo for short, is a pretty bonkers creature with elusive and a reap effect that reads, play a Mars creature from your discard pile and ready it. With the proper support cards, things can start daisy chaining together like crazy, and you can even begin rule of sixing things pretty consistently. Look for ready and use effects like Mars First and Ironix Rebel, preferably in multiples. Target Unixidal and Proliferator are also prime candidates to archive these pieces, or themselves. You could recur and get instant use out of things like Grabber Jammer or Zip the Implanter. The point is, things can get out of hand fast, and a key abduction to top it all off would just be icing on the cake. Another card that leads to massive combo potential, but on an even greater scale, is that of Winds of Death. This card honestly deserves its own video since it has so much potential and skill testing attributes. Play a couple boos early on to put a bunch of cards in your discard pile. Play Winds of Death to archive any creatures you discarded, then destroy everything else in the process. Then you'll hopefully have a ton of cards in your archives that you can then pull to have a massive hand, perhaps to make Key Abduction cheaper to forge with, or that you can use to combo off a huge Untamed turn with Haunting Witches and Grave Pixies and Spooky Charge. Those are just a couple ideas. The potential of this card is honestly quite vast and something possibly worth exploring in future videos. And the last thing I wanted to mention for this video is that Geistoid seems to have taken on some Saurian-esque qualities in that it attempts to compensate you when friendly creatures with Ember on them are destroyed, or simply protect them. Daimo Eldergast has a particularly strong effect that goes off when you're haunted. Dark Lamp gives them elusive, Reaver and Replicative Growth moves that Ember to your pool, Verid the Indulgent gets power boosted, and Thoughtcatcher lets you draw cards. I honestly really like this sub-theme that Geistoid has, and feels like something Saurian should have had more of in past sets like Dark Tidings and Winds of Exchange. Captured Ember just feels a little safer when these creatures are out, and can force your opponent to sequence things a little more meticulously in order to get their Ember back without rewarding you too much. And there we have it. Hopefully these tips and combos are helpful, especially as we continue to explore and discover this exciting new set. Let me know what combos you guys have found. I would love to hear your thoughts and discoveries. Grim Reminders is a combo set cranked up to maximum, with gameplay unlike anything we've seen before, and I can't wait to see how it all develops. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again in the next one. See you later.